when I did the first Reawaken America tour, which was in January of 2022 in Arizona, at the time, you know, we were in the middle of all the COVID and the vaccine stuff. And I had searched, we have a prophecy database. So most of what my dad has prophesied is transcribed, and they're not everything, because we, like I said, we still haven't found everything. There were years and years traveled where it wasn't recorded either on audio or video. But sometimes, you know, if you go to the older stuff, we have audio recordings, which is what this is that I'm about to show you next. But I had left the tour. I'd done the first presentation at the Reawaken America tour in Arizona. And again, I had been searching vaccine in the prophecy database and came up with nothing. So I thought, well, that's not something that God showed my dad. I mean, didn't show my dad everything. And so I got on the plane, and I have all of my dad's old albums in my iTunes. And even though this is no longer, or was never available on iTunes, because it's a very old album, he had released a CD after 9/11 called America on Her Knees.
Oh, I love that one.
And I had it's full of music, worship, and prophecy. So it's not music CD. There's prophecy in there. And, you know, it's stuff we'd just forgotten about. It had been decades. And I got on the plane and I looked at my iTunes. I thought, oh, I haven't listened to that one in years. I'm going to put that one on, put my AirPods in, and go to sleep on the plane. And I put it in, and I was listening to my dad. I fell asleep, and I was woken because I heard him say the word inoculations. And it woke me out of my sleep. And I thought, oh, inoculations. I didn't think to. And I found this particular prophecy. So we went digging through our footage, and we have a server where we have digitized stuff. And then we have, you know, DAT tapes and physical tapes still that we're trying to figure out how to get digitized. So we had to do a little digging, and we found the audio of what he prophesied from the CD, just lifting it from the CD. So we created a video with the transcripts. You can read it, but we don't actually have video footage of him because this was released on an album, and the album was released in 2001. So the first thing I wanted you guys to see today, so you can have in context, is that whole prophecy. And also so you understand that God showed this to me at just the right time. And he keeps doing that. I keep thinking I found everything, and then God will throw something else at me, like he's just done the last few days. And it's just God's timing. I know that's what it is.
So good.
Let's have a look at the first video, if you guys have it ready. The video.
All right. Here we go. Here we go with that.
Whole prophecy.
Here we go.
What about your children? What about them, says the Lord? That's what the enemy wants, to cripple your economy and to cripple your children. But the Spirit of God says they will breathe in the air that is pure. For I will take the air of this nation and I will purify it, says the Spirit of the Lord. For they want an inoculation against that which is being sent into this country, but it is not being sent in from outside, says the Lord. It is already inside this nation. Your enemies are within, says the Lord, and I will wipe them out one at a time. But before I do, I shall go over to the land where you are having war, and I will strike down the enemy quicker than you imagine, says the Lord. I will cause a spirit of betrayal to arise, and the people will be afraid. Great fear shall come upon them. Great fear shall come upon them, says the Lord. Not because of the strength of America, and not because of the strength of the religious, because the Lord said, I determined this day that I would do what I'm going to do, and I shall do it, says the Lord, for the sake of your children and your children's children. Therefore rejoice, for the battle has begun, but it shall end swiftly with a great shout of victory, says the Lord.
I had chills with that, and I've heard that a lot of times. I probably more because I love that CD. My goodness, wow!
Yeah.
I'll talk about that.
So so that's what I heard on the plane, and then I examined that prophecy again and again, and it was interesting to me because we had this question of, did the virus come from a lab or a wet market, or where did it come from? And you hear what he says in there about your enemies are within. They're saying it's coming from the outside, but it's inside, right? So I started to play this prophecy and let people see it, even though, I wasn't quite sure the implications of me doing that, because it's sort of saying your enemies are within America.
Yeah.
do with this is a very controversial thing to say, especially back then and even now. I mean, if we were to put this on YouTube, you know, we might get in trouble. I do all the time. I'm getting in trouble all the time.
Oh, really?
Over stuff my dad said decades ago, then we get in trouble for it. But it just shows you what a true prophet my dad was too, because he said,
yeah, I mean, and there's people that have said, because I look at not just the prophetic sites, but also patriot sites, our prophets prophesy only from the Lord. But several of them, we do enjoy watching patriot sites to see what other people are saying, not about what the future holds, but what's going on, what's been disclosed. And one of the things that has come about is that the whole fact that what happened in, or if it happened in, it was financed by the America. I got an email on that today from someone. I can't even remember where it came from, but it said it was some sort of revelation that they're now proving that the United States had financed this. They call it, there's a gain of function, that's one of the words, but one of them talks about it increases the viralness of a virus, that the United States funded that. So yeah, that's what he was saying. That came from within.
Yes. That
came from within.
And he saw that in 2001. And that is key here for the next video I'm going to show you, because we know that album was released in 2001. Anybody can look that up. You can look up America on Her Knees. It's not in iTunes right now, but you can look it up, and there is proof that it was released 2001.
Yeah.
So here you have him seeing something that at the time, and between 2001 and now, nothing like that had happened to make that prophecy make sense. So it's also showing how far in advance God was showing my dad. I think it all ties into 9/11, because he released that album after 9/11 and he prophesied 9/11. So there's something about that time period there in the 90s, going back all the way to the 70s, I do believe, but in the 90s as well, which is the reason God revealed those things to him at the time he revealed them. Because I think that's very important with prophecy. It's not just about when it's fulfilled, but when it was revealed to the prophet and why. That's
it's interesting to me that we've never talked about this aspect of it, but surely the Lord knew when your dad would be going home. He knew that because he's the Lord. He knows. So he made sure that your dad had the revelation years before, so that it could not, because most of this happened after he had gone home to be with the Lord. So,
which shows you the authenticity and the purity of the word that came from him, because he's, like I keep saying, he's not alive to be affected by opinion.
Yeah.
And everything he was prophesying at the time didn't make sense to anybody.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of it. There were the more immediate things like Hurricane Katrina and certain presidents, and he had those more immediate prophecies. But he had these very, very long ones that, you know, that's why he made Code Breakers. It's because he could see that there were little pieces of something that would eventually form what he called a tapestry and an image for us that is a guide. And that is the purpose of the prophecy, is God leading us when it gets difficult, that he's there to assist us, and he sends the prophet. And that's one of the reasons, is to be that light in darkness, so that where do we go? Well, we have that little glimmer of light. So that tells us where the truth is, and that's where we're going to head. And so there is purpose to prophecy, aside from just, you know, oh, that's amazing that he saw that. That's cool. It's not that. There's a purpose to it, God's purpose to it, to help his people.
Good. Really good. Really good.